Hello and welcome to Odds on Premier League Matchday 10. We are in for another great weekend of top-flight English football after the incredible results in the previous round, where we saw Man United being trashed by Liverpool with 5-0 and definitely need to bounce back against Tottenham, and Chelsea, Liverpool and Man City continue to go after their tails. My name is Danail and I'm honored to be host on Premier League together with our very special guest, football and betting expert Tom Rennie. Stay tuned to learn what tips and predictions he has prepared, and I'm sure you'll be able to find a lot of value as always. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing very well. West Ham are through in the Carabao Cup, and they beat Man City in that competition for the first time in 5 years. So I'm doing great.
I can see the grin on your face. Couldn't be happier. Okay, let's kick off Matchday 10 with Leicester and Arsenal on Saturday. Leicester needed penalties to defeat Brighton in the Carabao Cup in midweek, but extended their unbeaten streak to 5 now. Leicester have big problems. Leicester's big problem is keeping goals out of the other end with no clean sheets across their last 8 Premier League games. Arsenal, meanwhile, was very good in their 3-1 win over Aston Villa last time in the Premier League and followed that up with a comfortable cup win over Leeds in midweek.
Yeah.
After tough starts for both teams this season, they have found light at the end of the tunnel, and it should make for an interesting game here.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game's going to be fantastic, actually. Let's start with Leicester City, who themselves won in the Carabao Cup on penalties against Brighton in midweek. They made a bunch of changes. Another game where you just saw that development of Patson Daka. It's been a slow build this season. You know, we're 3 months on from his signing, and I think we're just starting to see the green shoots of him being the eventual Jamie Vardy replacement they've looked for a long, long time. So he looks really good. That leads to Jamie Vardy being a concern for this weekend. Expected to play, but he's struggling with a knee problem, and so they don't take risks with Jamie Vardy at this stage. There's an interesting narrative there that without Vardy, you'd often lower Leicester's ability to win a game and their odds, but I think with Patson Daka, you don't see a great big differential in that now. And that's maybe why Leicester are slight favourites at this moment in time to win, but only very slight. And defensively, you mentioned the issues. Fofana's out, Justin's out, Wilfred Ndidi still missing for this one as well. So those are big problems for Leicester, but they have just started to show some green shoots. Good to see James Maddison performing a little bit better as well after a really rough year or so, really, for a man who was once up there with Jack Grealish and is now just kind of waiting for his career to reignite again. As for Arsenal, the improvement continues. The first few weeks were, of course, diabolical, and they made some good steps in the right direction. But I don't think they deserved a point against Crystal Palace on Monday Night Football the previous week, and they scrambled one there. And they came up against a very poor Aston Villa on Friday that, at the moment, teams are finding it surprisingly easy to beat. I don't expect that from Villa. I will say Emil Smith-Rowe is playing really, really well. However, I will just caveat that with the fact that Arsenal fans and Arsenal media are so incredible at promoting their players. You'd think he was the second coming of original Ozil. He's a good player. He's playing well. Arsenal fans just need to calm down about that. And that in turn means people like you and I and our viewers need to calm down because we all get sucked into Arsenal fan propaganda at times. To this game, every Leicester game at the moment is goals at both ends. Every single one. Brentford last week by 2-1. Brighton in midweek, the 2-2 draw followed by the penalty win. Arsenal, I think, is still defensively suspect despite recent improvements. It's 3 goals conceded in those 2 home games that got them 4 points. So the most obvious thing to say, both teams to score. Goals at both ends. I'd be looking at the high goal margin, not the low goal margin. Anything above 4 goals could be quite interesting here. So this is the kind of game 2-2, 3-3, 3-2. I see goals in this game. Lots of good creative energy. Vardy, Daka, Maddison one side. Aubameyang, Smith-Rowe, Lacazette, Saka on the other. And they're all should be fit and available to play at some point this weekend. I'd be looking at draw. I'd be looking at high-scoring draw. Both teams to score, and the draw market is very interesting here.
Great. Yeah. Also, most of our viewers here agree with you. Anchor says both teams to score in this game. And Rami is also saying Leicester versus Arsenal, both teams to score and over 2.5. Yeah. Sorry, we have some technical issues. Both guys clicking on the same thing. All right, so we move on to Burnley and Brentford. Burnley still haven't won a game in the Premier League this season and haven't scored in back-to-back league games at Turf Moor. Brentford ended a two-game losing streak in the Premier League with a victory over Stoke in the Carabao Cup in midweek. Brentford remain unbeaten away from home, and this season they have won back-to-back matches on the road. Very interesting here.
Yeah, very interesting game, actually, and a real tough one to call, as you can see by the odds there. Almost dead even right now for both teams to win. This morning, I think Burnley were ever so slight favourites with Brentford's win last night. You can see they've evened out again. As we go towards the weekend, I expect Burnley to retake that favourites tag, not just because of Burnley's recent defeats, but also, Brentford's recent defeats, but also the injuries they have. Yoann Wissa is out of this game. Ethan Pinnock likely out of this game. Brian Mbeumo, if he's missing, is a massive loss. Vitaly Janel missing for this game. Matt Sorensen missing for this game. And of course, the big story this week, David Raya, the goalkeeper, one of the best players in the league this season for Brentford, missing for like 4 or 5 months. So it's a huge injury list for anyone to contend with, let alone a newly promoted side. But they keep upsetting the apple cart, as the cliche goes. For Burnley, look, I mentioned to you last week, I mentioned to Eddie regularly that they haven't changed much in recent years, and they don't change the way they play. But I can caveat that now with Maxwell Cornet, who is not a Burnley player. They convinced someone to sign for Burnley from Lyon. That is magic. How they've done that, I simply don't know. That's some Penn and Teller stuff. They've been able to make that happen. Maybe they told him he was actually signing for Brentford. I don't know, but he could be a difference maker here. So this is the game for me where Burnley get their first win of the season. I'd be looking at the Burnley win, Maxwell Cornet double. I'd also be looking at Burnley to keep a clean sheet. Low scoring, Burnley win.
That's very interesting indeed. I think someone here says also X2 as a final result, but maybe the goals market is better option here, as you pointed out. Liverpool-Brighton is the next one. What to say about Liverpool flying high in the league, trashed Man United with 5-0 at Old Trafford, unbeaten in 14 games in all competitions this season. Mo Salah writing history with a hat-trick at Old Trafford. Meanwhile, Brighton was knocked out of Carabao Cup by Leicester on penalties in midweek, having lost 4-1 at home to Man City as well on Premier League. They're now winless across their 5, and I think this will extend to 6 after the visit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You don't bet against Liverpool at this moment in time. Nobody should bet against Liverpool in any game, in any market at this moment in time, would be my advice to you. So look at the 1-0, the 2-0, the 3-0 market. Look at doubling up with Mo Salah. Look at the Mo Salah hat-trick market. My tip here will be Liverpool to win by 3-0. Combine that with a Salah goal. That's over 2.5 and Salah wins. Maybe even a -2 handicap in favour of Liverpool here, because they just have been so good. Even despite a few injuries in midfield, Naby Keita a doubt, Thiago is out, James Milner is likely missing for this one as well. But you watch midweek and you see someone like Curtis Jones, who is making those steps up, and he looks like he's a crucial component of Liverpool at this point. I know it was against Preston North End, but still, he looks like a player who could be a massive player for Liverpool in the central midfield in the Premier League this season. I will just caveat all of that with saying that Brighton, I think, are very, very good. And I think if Robert Sanchez never threw the ball in his own net at 0-0 last week against Manchester City, they would have pushed them harder. But he did, and the game was snatched away from them. They came on strong late on and probably deserved at least a goal, which they got, maybe a couple of goals in that game. Didn't deserve to lose 4-1 on the balance of the second half performance. My question would be, who's going to score goals for Brighton? It always remains that way. And I just don't think they will score at Anfield, despite some of the quality players that they have going forward. Big win for Liverpool. 2-0 minimum, over 2.5. I'd be looking at 3-0 and combined with Salah. That's my tip.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer really to bet on Liverpool and Salah to score in those games, as we saw. Man City and Crystal Palace is actually the next fixture on the list. Man City were dumped out of the Carabao Cup in midweek by West Ham, losing on penalties. This was a little bit of a surprise to me, as they had won the competition 4 years in a row. Crystal Palace have drawn 4 games in a row after 1-1 stalemate to Newcastle last weekend. City also haven't conceded a goal at home in the league so far, and will probably have no issues against Palace either.
No, you wouldn't expect so, but I'll tell you what's quite interesting. We just spoke about Liverpool, Brighton. We're now on to Man City, Crystal Palace, and both this morning, when teams have gone to Liverpool and City, the odds have been 25, 28 for them to get a win. And it's credit to Brighton and Palace how good their seasons have been. You're at 21 now. You were at 17 this morning or so on a lot of markets for Palace. So they're just drifting out a little bit, but you're getting ridiculous odds for teams to beat City and Liverpool at the moment, and you're not getting that particularly with Brighton and Palace, and that's because Palace have played very, very well. There's not a great deal to say about Man City, really. They don't have a great deal of injuries as per. The only one of real note is Ferran Torres, but, they don't play a striker. The front six is an embarrassment of riches, and if you take away Mo Salah, for me, Bernardo Silva is probably the best player in the Premier League at this moment in time. So they're very, very strong. Everyone watching knows that. You know that. And they rotated reasonably heavily against West Ham, though I don't think there'll be too many survivors from that game. I'm not even sure Kevin De Bruyne will get in this team because he's struggling for form at the moment. And maybe Bernardo Silva and one or two others are in better nick than the Belgian is at this moment in time. For Palace, we mentioned how well they played. Their great resilience. They should have beaten Newcastle last week, failed to do so. Should have beaten lots of teams in recent times. Brighton comes to mind. Yeah. West Ham come to mind. And they've not been able to do it. I think they will defend. I think they might even nick a goal in this game. You mentioned it's not happened so far this season. On the counter, they're very, very strong with the players they have on the break. So I'm not going to suggest go both teams to score, but there's certainly interest in that market for me. But I don't think it's going to be a 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, as I sometimes predict here. City win comfortably, but I wouldn't go anything above 1.5. -1 handicap.
Yeah, I've also some guys here are saying that City might win with over 2.5 goals. And someone says, greetings from Zambia, greetings from Bulgaria and London. Are you in London, actually? Sorry, Tom. I'm not sure where you are.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you are around the world. Greetings to you. I love the fact you've said the word greetings as well. Not often using conversation. It should be.
Yes, it should be, definitely. And moving on with Newcastle, Chelsea. Newcastle drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace in their first game since Steve Bruce's dismissal. Graham Jones will continue to make an interim charge as they are no closer to making a long-term appointment as of now. Chelsea thrashed Norwich 7-0 last weekend before requiring penalties to beat Southampton in the Carabao Cup on Tuesday night. Chelsea have also kept clean sheets in 3 of their 4 Premier League away games this season and didn't concede in either game with Newcastle last season.
Really surprised at the odds here. 9 this morning, 9.5 now, as you can see, for Newcastle to win. I can't see a single scenario where Newcastle get anything from this game. I could envisage a way for Brighton, envisage a way for Palace, unlikely though they may be. For Newcastle, no, absolutely not. This is your Asian handicap. And I'd be suggesting here, maybe even look at the -3 market for Chelsea. I think they're going to stuff them. I think they're going to absolutely stuff them like Christmas turkeys. The players missing for Chelsea, sure, there's 1 or 2. Lukaku is not going to play. Timo Werner's not going to play. Didn't have him last week. And as everyone saw, they smashed Norwich for 7. Newcastle are not that much better than Norwich City. Certainly defensively and certainly in midfield. The only difference is they have Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin. But it doesn't matter if you have Callum Wilson and Alan Saint-Maximin in your team. You don't touch the ball. They're not going to touch the ball in this game. This is going to be an annihilation. I'm telling you, this is the one. I'll be personally looking at 4-0, 5-0, that sort of market. I'd be looking at certainly a -3. -2 is a simple victory in terms of money. But if you're feeling daring as I am for this one, look at the -3 Asian handicap. Look at Chelsea winning without conceding. And also, I'm picking out goal scorers a lot at the moment because I'm quite enjoying the goal scorer and scoreline double. Chelsea win, Ben Chilwell scores. 4-4 for Chilwell. Well worth a look.
Very interesting analysis once again. And you've been proven to be a master on those kind of things with correct scores or even high scoring tallies. So I'll be definitely keeping a close eye on this one. Watford and Southampton is the next game after conceding 5 to Liverpool. Watford then put 5 past Everton in round 9 in a 5-2 victory for the Hornets in Claudio Ranieri's second game in charge. Southampton, meanwhile, were knocked out of the League Cup to Chelsea on penalties. They are also unbeaten in the last 2 in the Premier League. So, interesting game here.
Interesting odds as well. Really surprised to see Southampton where they are as we record. Watford have come in since the last time I saw it. They were about 3.8, 3.9 this morning, gone down to 3.25. Southampton drifting away. And I think that's understandable because I'm amazed to see Southampton favourites to win a game. I've got to tell you. I mean, look, let's talk Southampton first, as I've mentioned them, because they've got a couple of players who have made them significantly better. That's Armando Broja and that is Tino Livramento, the two guys brought in from Chelsea, one purchased and one on loan. The right back, Livramento, looks a top quality signing. They've got a buyback clause. Chelsea, they will be buying him back, I've no doubt. And Broja, who's barely played top level football, already looks better than Shea Adams and Armstrong, who they brought in to replace Danny Ings. Physically impressive, tremendous athlete, eye for goal. And I think they've got something to offer suddenly, Southampton. Apart from that, not a great deal in the cupboard for Southampton. I would suggest still defensively quite weak in terms of individual talent. Organised well and trained well and coached well as though they are. Still not impressed by the individuals that they have. For Watford last week, what a game. There's the famous Antonio Conte subtitle meme, which is just one normal week of the Barclays. And that was one of those moments when Watford won at Everton. How is this happening? Give us one normal week. But you've got to give it to Claudio Ranieri. It wasn't a tactical masterclass by any stretch. He got them in the right frame of mind. You could tell that even at 2-1 down with 10 to go, they didn't feel beaten. When they scored from that corner, didn't feel beaten. It helped that Everton's defence were all in different time zones for a lot of this game. But the way they crushed them in that last 10, and it was great to see Josh King score a bunch of goals as well. I think that 2 or 3 years ago, he was a real top player. So it was great to see him have a little renaissance. To this game, tough one to predict. Real tough one. I am still not brave enough to back Watford. I'm certainly not brave enough to back Southampton. Guess what? Draw for me in this one. I'd be looking low scoring as well. And they've had a lot of 2-2s recently, which pay out reasonably well. And I always look every week to see if I can find a 2-2. I don't think I'd be looking at this one. 0-0 would be my tip here.
Harry's a bit more convinced than you. He says Watford to win. Maybe not. We'll see. What is interesting here, though, is the odds change constantly. So you can go check them on oddspedia.com, where we refresh them every 5 to 10 seconds. So what we have written here on the screen might not be actual anymore. So moving on to a big game, in my opinion, the biggest game of Matchday 10, Tottenham and Man United. Both managers are under high pressure here because they need results. And fans are getting angry and frustrated already. Even we saw Man United fans leaving the stadium at Liverpool, actually at Old Trafford after the 60th minute. So, definitely Tottenham also needs a confidence boost with the 1-0 win at Burnley in the Carabao on Wednesday night. They will hope that victory can provide a springboard for Sunday's welcome at Man United.
Yeah. I was at Tottenham last week. Tottenham lost against West Ham, where they were very, very poor, very flat, and didn't offer a great deal. I watched the game against Vitesse Arnhem in the Europa League a few days before with a Tottenham fan who had predicted the scoreline before the kickoff. Maybe he should be doing this and not me. He said 1-0, no chance for us in this game, and it's exactly what happened. Interesting that Harry Kane played the full game against Burnley in midweek. It seems pretty clear that the manager, it's obvious, you haven't got to be a genius to know this, but he knows they ain't going to have a good season unless Harry Kane starts scoring. And he doesn't really look a great deal like scoring. One chance against West Ham and one gargantuan miss against Burnley last night. And that's about it. So, look, I think that Tottenham at the moment are a team struggling for identity in midfield. They look weak. Up front, they look confused. At the back, they look better. I like the look of the central defensive pairing of Romero and Dyer, better than Dyer and Sanchez, I think. I don't really rate Davinson Sanchez. Fullbacks still look a bit iffy. Not sure about Emerson Royale. Not sure about Sergio Reguilon, and still have my doubts about the continuing decline of Hugo Lloris. So I think there are issues there. But Man United, that's where the real issues are, right? And Paul Pogba suspended, but what do you played anyway? Varane is missing. Martial is out. Apart from that, it's still a very, very strong team. What is he going to do? What is he going to do? This feels like one of those games. Our older viewers might recall when Ruud Gullit was in charge of Newcastle United. And when his job was on the line, and Newcastle were a good team back then, he dropped Alan Shearer for a Northeast derby, a Tyne-Wear derby against Sunderland. There's famous images. You can Google them right now. And Ruud Gullit was sitting next to Alan Shearer on the bench. Newcastle, I think, went on to lose the game. It was in torrential rain, and Ruud Gullit resigned the next day. He knew he had to do something, and if it worked, hero, legendary. If it didn't work, he had to walk. And I think that's where we are with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now. He isn't going to get sacked by this Man United hierarchy because they have too much faith in him. And I think the word of Alex Ferguson still is very, very strong within the club. We haven't got a great deal of time to go into the ins and outs of this week. I've been told by people very close to it that senior players, first-team players who would have started last week have voiced their concerns about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Some want him gone. Others have bought into the project. But they are sticking with him. They'll stick with him here, and they'll stick with him in midweek, and they'll stick with him to the Man City game. If he loses all three of those, I still don't think he'd go. And I don't think they'll lose here. I don't think they'll lose here because Tottenham at this moment in time are not the strongest. I don't think they'll play to their strengths, which is counter-attack, no Harry Kane. Harry Kane will play. He'll try and slip in Heung-min Son, another who's got off the boil. And in midfield, I think even Man United's midfield can overpower what Tottenham have got. So, very tough because it's chaos right now, certainly for Manchester United. But I'd be tipping United. I'd be looking at the both teams to score market, the game to be over 2.5 goals at least, but Man United win.
Yeah, maybe the goals market is the safe bet here because, as you mentioned, both teams are struggling, especially the Reds. They have been unbeaten in the last three away league meetings with Tottenham, but I'm not sure that the stats. I'm not sure the stats will play a big role here. But it's very interesting what you said about Alan Shearer being dropped in the 90s, I think.
Yeah, it's 98, I think, 97, something like that.
I'm certainly old enough to remember, but I haven't been watching Premier League probably. I was about 10, 11 years old.
It's a very specific example, to be fair.
So imagine if he has the balls to drop Cristiano from the game, because many supporters are saying that Cristiano is not the right fit for the project. Maybe, he's still the best player in the world, but...
Well, he's not the right fit if you want to press, but as West Ham showed last week, you don't have to press against Tottenham Hotspur. So that's another interesting thing about this game.
Because, the fans really want to see Sancho in play, but he's not getting any chances, which is very, very... But, anyway, let's move on to Sunday and Norwich and Leeds. We have Norwich when things went from bad to worse last weekend after losing 7-0 to Chelsea. They have lost 7 in their last 9 matches and scored only 2 goals, something that you very well predicted. Leeds haven't done a whole lot better, actually. They're 1 place and 3 points above relegation with just 1 win from 9 league games. Serious question will start being asked of Marcelo Bielsa if his Leeds side slip up here through they are seriously missing Patrick Bamford up front.
Yeah, definitely missing Bamford. It's still missing for this one. Doubts about Raphael, doubts about Calvin Phillips, Robin Koch, Luke Ayling, a whole bunch of players likely missing for this one. Rafinha most likely to return of that list. This is tough, because what's my rule? Bet against Norwich. That's my rule for the season. Bet against Norwich. You will win good money this year betting against Norwich City. There's not often there is a whipping boy so readily whipped in the Premier League, but that is what Norwich City are. My doubts about Leeds are they have been dismal. They've been really dismal. They're so open, and the players have not been able to deliver what Bielsa wants across this season because so many of the key talents have been missing. That all being said, I'm still sticking to the rule. Leeds win because they're playing Norwich, and Leeds win without conceding a goal. It's risky this week. This is one of the riskiest Norwich bets you're going to do this season. But as I keep saying to you, if you consistently bet against Norwich, you'll win more than you lose. And I'm not changing that rule. Leeds win. Look for low scoring, but Leeds win.
Ash is saying Norwich defense is top tier. Nice joke here. Okay, maybe if you want to be adventurous, don't bet at all. If you don't want to be adventurous, what I mean is you just save a couple of bucks. The other Sunday game is Aston Villa welcoming West Ham. Villa lost 3 in a row and currently 13 in the league, while West Ham are high on confidence with 2 back-to-back victories against strong opponents such as Everton and Tottenham. What do you see here?
West Ham unbeaten away from home all season. West Ham won 3 games in 6 days in the last week. And in the victory over Man City, didn't play Declan Rice, who is their most important and best player. Didn't even feature in the matchday squad. Same with Antonio, the second most important player at West Ham. They've somehow managed to keep everyone fit during this period of time as well, which is incredible for West Ham, considering how bad their injury records have been in recent times. For Aston Villa, I thought at the start of the season, they played really well and weren't quite getting the results their performances deserve. Now, the performances have tailed off and they're getting beat still. So I don't think Villa are going to go down this season, but I think the hopes of a good season hinge on games like this when they're not expected to win. This is a great double chance opportunity. West Ham don't get beat very often, so I'd be looking draw and West Ham. But if you are feeling more adventurous, look at the hammers here. The Declan Rice differential could be massive. He's had a week off for the first time in 4 months. And that could be massive for West Ham United. Antonio coming back in. Kurt Zuma and Ogbonna rested in midweek. They come back in. Fabianski, who's been in fantastic form, rested, comes back in. You know, there's at least 5 or 6 players, senior, top quality, solid players for West Ham who didn't need to play in midweek. They've had a full week. I know Villa have as well, but West Ham are a slightly better side. So I'd be looking here at double chance, leaning towards West Ham United. And that's it. Go for the Hammers. Make some money.
Yeah, go Hammers, go. And what is our viewers saying? West Ham draw no bet, or West Ham or draw no bet and under 3.5? Very interesting indeed. You might give it a try as well with a couple of pounds or bucks, whatever your currency is. And the last game of Matchday 10 will be Wolves and Everton on Monday night. Wolves are currently... They actually interrupted their victorious path with 3 back-to-back wins with the draw to Leeds in the last round. Meanwhile, Everton are dropping important points, as we mentioned, being trashed by Watford with 5-2, and will definitely need to bounce back here. A close call game, both on odds as you can see, and as well because they're only separated by 1 point. What do you see here?
Yeah, this is a tough one. There's a few tough ones this week, but I think Wolverhampton Wanderers have certainly surprised many. First 4 or 5 weeks of the season, good football, couldn't score goals. All of a sudden, solidity has returned and goals have returned. You mentioned Leeds last week. Should have won that. Was never a penalty, and Leeds kind of got away with one last week. It wasn't going to be overturned on VAR, but it shouldn't have been given first time around. But they play good football, and the big issue with Wolves right now is who to look for scorers, because Raul Jimenez has been the man for a couple of seasons. He stopped scoring goals. The good news for them is Hwang Lee-Chan has now come in and scoring goals and scoring strikers' goals as well. Look at the goal last week. Right position, right time, toe poke, bottom corner. Perfection for a centre forward. As for Everton, I think they got some real good results first few weeks of the season, despite the injury issues that they had. But when you have injury problems to key players, you can only cover for so long. You can tell Richarlison coming back in last week, scoring in like 2 minutes since coming on, made a big difference. But still no Calvert-Lewin, still no Yerry Mina. Mina will be coming in for Michael Keane this week. Let me tell you, Michael Keane was diabolical last week against Watford. A real diabolical performance. As I mentioned earlier on, it was like he was playing in a different time zone, playing a different sport than everyone else in Everton shirts. And as for the midfield, losing to Corey, massive loss as well. So huge losses for them. I can only see a Wolves win here. I think that despite the good form of the likes of Townsend, Damari Gray and whatnot, I think Wolves are in better form. Wolves currently a better place to win a game like this. They have better goal threat. It's going to be quite even, I think. I certainly will be looking double chance, maybe Wolves and the draw. Draw is something I'd be looking at. Maybe both teams to score as well. But if I was going to pick a scoreline, it'll be 2-0. So variance of 2-0 to Wolverhampton Wanderers. That's what I'd be looking at.
Okay, there you have it, guys. Everything analyzed from Matchday 10. But we need your ACCA. I think you're very close last week, or you actually nailed it. Can you remind me what happened?
I think I won my ACCA last week. I can't believe that you're telling people that I didn't get my ACCA last week. It came in, as I recall. I've gone slightly less adventurous these days because it makes me nervous, the ACCA. There's good rewards to be had, but of course the odds, understandably, are a little bit further out. This week, I think I'm going to go relatively simple again. 2 quite obvious victors, and then one that might make this slightly more interesting. And so I think you're looking across this week a couple of obvious victories in the games that are there. I'll just get my fixture list back up again. Lost me ACCA here while I'm talking to you live. I'll be looking at Man City.
There you go.
I'll be looking at Liverpool to win against Brighton, looking at Chelsea to win at Newcastle, but add Leeds in the mix. Why? Because Norwich always lose. So Liverpool victory, Chelsea victory. The away win brings that up. You throw Leeds, to win at Norwich. That brings it to about 4. $30 brings you a good result, I would say, in this one.
Yeah, and actually that's the whole point of having ACCAs, not going crazy with the odds, just making sure you nail a good buck, some spare change for the coming days. Well, that was all, guys. Thank you for watching and commenting in the live chat. You can still go back, watch the video after we finish. Leave your comments about match day 10 in the Premier League, and remember to always stay on the right side of the money. Thank you, Tom. It was a pleasure. I think I'll see you next week again.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.